Good evening. I'm William Bell, the President and CEO of Casey Family Programs. And Cassandra, I thank you for those remarks and for sharing your life with us. On average, every 24 hours in the United States of America, we lose 4 children, most of them before they reach their 6th birthday, to child abuse and neglect. On average, every 24 hours in this nation. And tonight, as I stand here before you to introduce you to the Commissioner for Child Welfare for the Administration for Children's Services in New York, I would first ask you to pause with me for a moment for a little boy, 6 years old, Zymir Perkins. Zymir lost his life to child abuse. Can we just pause for a moment for Zymir? Thank you. Dr. King was known for quoting scripture when he would say, "And let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream." And as he spoke those words, he was talking about getting to a place where we can each see everyone else the way we see ourselves, as a human being who is living with the human condition and all that comes with being human. Sometimes we get introduced to some wonderful human beings as their names are plastered across the media. You never know them until a child dies. And then you hear how incompetent they are. You hear how their workers are incompetent. You hear how they failed this child. But until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream, we won't be able to see the people who, men and women who run the child welfare systems across this country as the first responders that they are. When we hear a fire truck, we think that's a first responder. They're rushing into a fire to save someone who may be trapped. When we hear a police siren, we think that's a first responder. They're putting their lives on the line to stop crime, to stop the bad guys. But when our only introduction to the leaders of child welfare agencies and the staff in those child welfare agencies is the article that we read in the newspaper that say that the leader is beleaguered, the agency is beleaguered, the workers are going to be brought up on charges. But yet, on average, every 24 hours in America, 3 women die as a result of domestic violence. Most of those women, there was a piece of paper in a judge's hands with a judge's signature on it saying, "We know who would kill you if you get killed." There was a piece of paper in a police precinct with that lady's name on it and the person who was going to kill her's name on it saying, "We know who will have killed you if you get killed." But when they die, there are no newspaper articles that says the police department is beleaguered. There are no critics who cry out to say you need to unseat those judges. But yet these first responders, sometimes the only way you get introduced to the commissioner is through that newspaper article. Tonight I want to introduce you to an outstanding public servant. I want to introduce you to a little Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx. A little Puerto Rican girl who grew up in the Bronx, who graduated from Fordham University. I want to introduce you to a little Puerto Rican girl who grew up in the Bronx, who graduated from the NYU School of Law. A little Puerto Rican girl who was called to go into public service when she worked at Bronx Legal Services. A little Puerto Rican girl who was raised in the Bronx, who was called by Ed Koch to serve on the board of CUNY. A little Puerto Rican girl who was called by Mayor David Dinkins to run the Community Development Agency. A public servant who has dedicated her life to children, to communities, to families. A little Puerto Rican girl who was asked to run two not-for-profits, Family Dynamics and Inwood House. A little Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx who worked for the Ford Foundation, who was called by Governor Spitzer to run the Office of Children and Family Services for the state of New York. A little Puerto Rican girl who I'm proud to call my friend, because I've sat where she sits. I've sat at a place when people who don't know me judge me. I hugged her tonight because I know her heart breaks just as much as anybody else's heart each time that we lose a child. A little Puerto Rican girl who was then called to come and do two of the toughest jobs in America. Either one of them done separately can end your career. One is run the Department of Juvenile Justice. The other is run the Department of Children's Services. And she has the task to run them both. And I introduce her to you that way tonight because I need you to invest a little hope in her tonight. I need you to stand and welcome Commissioner Gladys Carrion to the stage because she is hurting right now in a way that you can't imagine unless you have walked in those shoes. But this is a public servant who has dedicated her life to investing in hope because she also understands that until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream, we will never have the kind of system that helps us to end the deaths of those 4 children every 24 hours. We will never have the kind of system that lifts up every first responder, whether they carry a badge or a gun or drive a big red truck or not. They're nonetheless standing in between us and justice for kids across this country. And so I welcome Gladys tonight to present a proclamation to Casey Family Programs on behalf of the 109th mayor of the city of New York, Mayor Bill de Blasio. But I would ask you to just stand with me and invest a little bit of hope into the life of Commissioner Gladys Carrion.